I've got my potatoes here. I've got enough to run through. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my potatoes and I'm going to kind of go and drop them where I want them. I'll come back here in a little bit and actually push the dirt over the top. Right now I'm just spacing them out about where I want. I'm going to put about 18 inches between each potato, and then we're actually going to do some companion planting. We're going to put bush beans between the potatoes. Bush beans help put nitrogen back into the soil, which is going to help feed the potatoes. They are a great companion. They do really well together, and it's just another way of being efficient with the land that you have. So follow along and you'll see as I drop these down. We'll come back in a few minutes and we'll actually get the dirt on top, make sure they're positioned properly. All right, so we are back. We've got all 12 rows planted with our potatoes. Again, these are Pontiac Reds. We've got 10 rows of Pontiac Red. We have 2 rows of Kennebec White. And so here's what we're going to do. We've got them kind of spaced out where we want them now. We're going to come through. We're going to take the eyes of the potatoes and we're going to point them up. Remember, eyes to the sky. So we're going to put this here. Then what I'm going to do is come in, and you want to put about 4 inches of dirt over top of it. You don't have to pack it down, but you want it to be covered. An exposed potato to the sun will get burned, and that's not a good thing. So you want to make sure that there's plenty of dirt over top. If it's too much dirt, that's not good. If it's too little, that's probably even worse. So you want to be pretty consistent as you go through. If you want to do it by hand, you can. If you want to do it with a rake, you can. But the important thing is to make sure that your eyes pointed up. So as you can see, our potatoes are doing really well. They're just about 15 days old, maybe 16 days if I don't have my calendar correct. But they're doing super. A few things you want to keep in mind with potatoes. Again, you want to make sure that they're mounded up well because your potatoes are going to grow down, especially with this variety here. This is a determinate potato. So I don't have to keep burying this. I don't need to keep putting dirt on top of the leaves and allow the plant to grow. These potatoes are going to grow down and they may even grow out just a little bit. Something to keep in mind with your potatoes, it's about a 10 to 12 week process depending on what type of potatoes you have. These right here say that they will be mature within about 100 to 110 days. So it's a little bit of a process. You spend a lot of time getting them ready, you spend a lot of time taking care of them, but it's going to take a while for them to produce. So you want to do whatever it takes to make sure that they're being watered well, that they get the light they need, and from time to time, it's not a bad idea to fertilize. Today we're going to be digging potatoes. If you followed along, back in April, we actually put these potatoes in the ground. We've got 2 varieties that we're going to be working with, Pontiac Red and Kennebec White potatoes. So the first 10 rows are red potatoes. The bottom 2 rows are white potatoes. We did harvest some potatoes about 10 days ago out of a 16-foot raised bed. They were all white potatoes, and we had about 25 pounds of seed that we started with, and we ended up with 108 pounds of potatoes. So we've got about 125 pounds of seed potato that we started with out here. We're going to see what we end up with. I don't expect it to be ratio wise as big of a harvest because red potatoes are generally smaller than white potatoes. Some of the questions that we get a lot about our potatoes is, how do you know when they're ready? Well, right here's a great example. Our potato patch looks terrible. Now, I'll ask you to overlook our weeds because they have taken over. A lot of grass coming up. But I want you to notice these potato plants. We've got a little bit of new growth on here that hasn't died off yet, but by and large, these plants look terrible. They've dropped their stems, their leaves have all died off. If you look all around me, you'll see a lot of dead sticks that are just kind of poking out of the ground. These potato plants are done. They've been in the ground for 102 days now. So we're going to dig them up this morning and we're going to see what kind of a harvest we get. So follow along as we dig potatoes. One of the issues that you may run into when you're digging your potatoes are potatoes that have been exposed. I've got a few, and that's really my fault because I haven't done a good enough job of making sure they're covered. When a potato is exposed to the sun, it will turn green, and you don't want to eat a green potato. They're not good for you. They don't taste good. Stay away from green potatoes. So I've got a few that you can see right down here that have been exposed, and they're starting to turn a little bit green. That's on me. That's my fault. I didn't keep them covered with dirt. But they're not all like that, so kind of keep that in mind in the future. We're going to pull up a few plants, kind of show you what it looks like, and then we're going to harvest it all together. You can see the roots really run wild on these plants. They go all over, and you end up with lots of little potatoes like this right here. This would be called a new potato. They're actually some of my favorites. You can take these little potatoes, put them in a roasting pan with a little bit of butter, a little bit of salt and pepper. Oh my goodness. You can eat like a king or a queen. That's one plant. We can dig around. There's some more down in here. There's a big one. So we started with one potato about this size, and you end up with a good number just like this. That's the beauty of growing potatoes. Multiplication. You start with one, you end up with 8 or 10 or 12. Awesome. I wish everything grew as easy as potatoes. You can see we've got a little okra plant right here coming up around us. Get these weeds away from it. When your dirt is really healthy, you're going to grow more than just food. You're going to grow a lot of weeds. If you don't stay on top of it, if you get overwhelmed by rain, or if you're like me and the heat really bothers you, and you don't do it as enough, it will absolutely take over. Naked soil will not stay that way. And if it's soft soil, it will grow almost anything. The good news is it's easy to pull it up, as you can see. The size of that red potato. I've got a pretty good sized hand. I'm not a huge man, but I'm a pretty good sized guy. That's a big potato. Really good potatoes. So far, these are bigger than our white potatoes, and I'm surprised by that. Looks like it's going to be a good harvest. One of the keys to having a good, healthy potato harvest is taking care of your dirt. If you don't have good dirt, you're not going to have good production. This is compost. This is Canadian peat moss, and this is a mixture of straight up cow manure. So this was very nitrogen rich. Plants loved it. You get a little bit concerned when you're growing potatoes because as the potato plant grows, they look beautiful. They come on strong, they grow quickly. And about 6 or 7, 8 weeks into the process, they'll start turning yellow, get a little bit of an orange tint to them. And you think, oh my goodness, what have I done to my plants? They're dying. They don't look healthy. They're just following nature's course. That's the way it goes. As the plant gets really good, then all of a sudden it starts to die off. What it's doing, that's nature telling you, hey, it's time to start paying attention to these tubers because they're about ready.
Man, we got mashed potatoes, potato salad, we got grilled potatoes, sliced potatoes, whole potatoes, raw potatoes, cooked potatoes, sweet potatoes, normal potatoes, fried potatoes, potato fries. Got all kinds of stuff. Oh, are you videoing me?